Section 9. General information and philosophy. Number 1, Section 9 establishes rules and minimum requirements for qualification of welding procedures and qualification of welders for pressurized. 2, rules and requirements of Section 9 applies to pressure parts and attachment to pressure parts. It does not apply to non-pressure parts. So some structural code will use Section 9 for qualification. Some of your shops will qualify you to Section 9 to weld structure out to. But what we're really talking about in ASME is piping and pressure vessels and boilers. So when we talk about attachment to pressure parts and non-pressure parts here, so the pressure parts would be anything that you weld to the outside of a shell, like on a pressure vessel, on the outside of a shell or outside of a head. If the material you're welding to is containing pressure, then you're creating a pressure retaining weld. You've got a pressure weld that you're working with. And then, so let's say you got some legs putting on the bottom of a horizontal vessel. That weld where you're putting those little saddles onto the shell, that's going to be pressure weld. But anything you weld to those legs, it's just... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And anything that's welded to the legs themselves, it's exactly. Yeah, exactly. Not really. Both. Yeah, look at some of the smaller companies out there. Small pressure vessel, small pipe shop. Yeah. Sure enough. Right. Yeah, especially the bigger companies. Exactly. All right. Number 3 on that next page. A welding procedure qualification is conducted to determine and prove the weldability of the proposed welding process and operation. We use that to demonstrate that the joining process proposed for construction is capable of producing joints having the required mechanical properties for the intended application and service. A welding procedure qualification is not intended to test, prove the skill level of the welder, just the welding process. So we got 2 different things here, and we're about to talk about the other one, the welder performance qualification. We have welding procedure qualifications, and then we have welder performance qualifications. The procedure is just about the welding procedure itself. Right? So we're not worried about the welder. So to qualify a welding procedure, we get basically 2 sets of beveled plates, whatever material you need, whatever filler metal you're going to be using, whatever process. And you'll weld that out. You want to try and get one of your, good welders to weld it out, because you don't want to have porosity or slag or something else inside that weld. You want to have a good clean weld, and then you'll send that weld off and send it off to the lab, and they'll cut it and run some tensile tests on it and do some, whatever you need to on it, whatever lab work you need done on it. Could be Sharpie impacts. And the other side of that is the welder performance qualification. It is conducted to determine and prove the skill of the welder. Determine the ability of welders to make sound welds. A welder performance qualification is not intended to test, prove the weldability of the welding process or operation. All right, so a welder performance qualification is like when you go take a weld test someplace. what we're talking about right there. So when you go take a weld test, it's designed to test you. So welding procedure qualification is designed to test the process and the amperage you use and all the other variables. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, number 5. Each company or organization is responsible for testing and qualifying their own welding procedures and welders. Companies cannot use other companies' welding procedures. Companies cannot accept welder qualifications from other employers. Companies are responsible for supervision and control of the welding operation conducted by their organization. So we're talking about ASME. ASME wants you to test on site with their procedures, with whatever company you're going to work for. They're not going. Well, company's not going to use somebody else's procedures or allow you to. Well, you took a test. Work for so and so down the road. You're good with us, and that's how it works. All right, let's go to number 6. A welding procedure consists of 2 parts. Welding procedure specification, that's WPS, a written procedure prepared to provide direction for making production welds to code requirements. So that's going to be the main document if you're the welder. You take a look at WPS. It's going to tell you a range of amperage or voltage that you can use, different gases, different gas pressures, CFHs, what size rod you can use, or all sorts of different things, right? It's going to tell you what your variables are. Now, the next one is procedure qualification record. That's your PQR. This is a record of variables used during the welding of test coupons and the applicable test results. The PQR proves the WPS. So, the PQR, let's say we've done a WPS with maybe a 1-inch thick plate, bevel plate, groove. We put a stringer in it with TIG, and we TIGged it all the way out, let's say. And we use carbon steel, base metal, carbon filler, and we ran 150 amps. Well, the PQR is going to say exactly what I just said. That's the actual parameters that we used on the test. It's going to be on the PQR. The welding procedure, we can go into code, and it gives us an average. So like if we had 150 amps that we actually used on that test, we could go 15% below and 15% above with our amperage. And that gives us a range of what the welder can use. The welding procedure will have ranges. That way, as a welder, if I come into a company and I'm qualified to this procedure, I can look at that procedure and I can run a little lower, a little higher, gas a little lower, a little higher. Yeah, we have some room. PQR proves the welding procedure because it's the actual data that we used, actual variables on that test. And also when we send off the that procedure test and we send it to the lab, they'll send us back a bunch of information about the tests that they did. Right? All that stuff. Tensile tests, Sharpie test, whatever we happen to do on that test, we'll get that back, and we will actually take that data and put it into the PQR as well. All right.